The only reason for Formula One cars to go testing is to show off their transformer mode. I love the rakes on the Formula One cars. I think they make the cars look even cooler, geekier, and I like that about Formula One cars. Yes, it is actually written in the Formula One regulations that pre-season testing can only be 3 days long, and each team can just run one car, which means the drivers are literally splitting time on track. This is very similar to Formula One controlling wind tunnel time like CFD cycles, and even the team's racing budget with the new budget caps. Two key aspects that I remember teams would love to focus on in pre-season testing would be one, the correlation between track performance and simulator data. So remember, all the work they did in the winter was all offline. They get to correlate offline work with online car running on track. Very, very important. And then the second is always identifying a sweet spot in their package that serves as a baseline in the first few races. If you're a cricket fan, pre-season testing is like net practice. If you're a football or a baseball or a basketball fan, pre-season testing is Formula One's pre-season warm-up game. Deciphering pre-season testing form is even more complex. But why is it complex? This leads me to the question from Pravar on Twitter. He asked me saying, how do teams fool fans in pre-season testing? Simply put, a team can appear competitive in pre-season testing if they run, say, a lighter fuel load, because, well, the lighter the car, the faster you go. And the same can actually be said about engine modes as well if you use a more powerful engine mode. There are very, very minute ways of deciphering whether a team has actually had a good test or not. At the end of the day, the cars that the teams will test in Bahrain might not necessarily be the cars that they race in the first round of the season in Australia. In fact, Formula One teams might already be working on upgrades that they will ship to Australia after the pre-season test confirms a few things that they've been working on. My go-to journalist for deciphering pre-season testing form is Mark Hughes, who of course writes for Formula One and the Motorsport magazine. Formula One has tested and raced in Bahrain before. When you consider teams have been around for a long time in testing and they've been racing there, there is historic data on lap time versus fuel loads, right? Which means how much fuel do you carry, and hence what are the lap times it could result in. Quite simply, go check last year's Bahrain Grand Prix lap times. Specifically, check the Q3 lap times, because the drivers there are being fueled for 4 odd laps for their final single lap run in Q3. Track conditions make a difference. The temperature at which the circuit was being run at are some of the other variables that are in the mix that make reading testing form very difficult. So do teams get more days to test if they lose time due to reliability? Everything in Formula One is about efficient planning and execution, and testing is no different. You snooze, you lose. If you show up late, or if your car build is delayed, or if you have reliability issues, or for whatever reason, you lose vital track time, you do not get that time back. Is testing a good indicator for full season form? Teams and drivers do get a general sense of their car's initial impressions from testing. But season-long form is much more than having just a good test. It's about consistently delivering to a baseline performance and then uplifting that baseline performance at the driver and the car level through upgrades and so much more. Teams like McLaren and Ferrari, who are making radical changes to their cars in 2025, they will very much be looking for that sweet spot, because that sweet spot would have definitely moved if they made radical changes to their cars. And these pre-season tests will validate their formula. And of course, with so many new drivers racing in 2025 and with several team and driver changes, the other aspects of testing include running through Grand Prix weekend routines, communication between pit wall, garage, and the driver. Maybe Lewis Hamilton is specifically looking at this with Ferrari, pit stop practice, and several other areas of performance. So there's a lot to look forward to at this year's pre-season test. Even though testing can be very boring, for the nerd, for the geek in you, testing is actually where the fun begins.